Claim your free AirPods today by clicking the first link in the description down below.
r/AskReddit. What secret are you hiding from your family? That I've been dumped by my fiance and I'm supposed to be getting married in December. Edit. Thank you for your kind words and advice. I'm a girl for those that are being explained the difference between fiance and fiancé. It was also not rushed. We have been together for 7 years and we had even planned kids, pets, houses, everything. He broke up with me after telling me he wished he had experienced more since I was his first and only girlfriend. And a lot of little other things like this. I will of course tell my family, but I haven't gotten to it just yet. Your replies make it a little more bearable, thank you everyone. Take solace that the relationship ended before the wedding. Cold comfort. I know. I dated a girl. Found out she was legitimately a psychopath and had been determined to be a psychopath by a psychologist. She ducked my head up really bad and left me suicidal for several months. I was close to suicide, but I decided there were things I wanted to do before I die. And one of them was buy a sailboat and go on a long sailing trip. So I decided I would do that first. And if I still wanted to kill myself afterwards, I could do it then. I bought the boat in another state and sailed it to my home state over several hundred miles. And I don't want to kill myself anymore. Ducking nice dude, become a sailor, awesome hit. Or one of those people who work on private yachts. My cousin has a job like that and she spends her time living on luxury yachts in the Caribbean and Mediterranean and makes a ton of money for very little work. When I was 14, my friend and were drinking at my house when my parents weren't there. I lived in a small town and there wasn't much to do. Not that I'm defending 14-year-olds drinking. I'm just giving context. My sister, 4 years my elder, had a 1997 Honda Civic in the garage. My friend and I thought it would be a good idea to stealthily open up the garage door, push it down the road, hop in, turn it on, and go for a little joyride on the country roads. It was a rainy day, so the roads were still slick. And I got the great idea to pull the e-brake and do a bit of a slide. I slide directly into a ditch. The front bumper mounts brake, and the hubcap is slightly bent into the rubber of the wheel. We take it back home and begin to drunkenly try to fix it with zip ties and crowbars. It was a shoddy job, but it held. About a week later, my sister gets into a low-speed car accident on that exact side of the bumper. She still doesn't know, but I bet the mechanic working on her car knew something was up. This was 13 years ago. A similar thing happened to me once. When I was 15 over 16, I had stolen my sister's car one night and accidentally crashed into a pole, leaving a dent in the bumper. I brought it back home and awaited my fate. The next morning my brother's car battery died, so he used my sister's car to go to class. It was early and still dark out when he left, so he didn't notice the dent. On his way to class he got into a minor accident, so everyone thought the dent was from that. They still don't know about my incident to this day. How lucky can you be for that string of events to occur and get you off free like that? Geez. That when my in-laws passed they left us millions enough to retire and travel the world. Last time I talked to my mother more than a year ago, she made fun of my wife's white trash parents. Duck M. Holy smokes. Best secret ever. It's funny, I knew they had money, but I always saw them as being roughly in the same socio-economic level as my parents and myself. My wife and I have been married over 20 years, and I work as a software developer. So we are doing okay, paid off mortgage, small nest egg, on track to retire in 15 years or so. My mother is a classic narcissist and has never really liked the fact that we moved across the country, or that I got married, or that I climbed out of her ducking womb. But I'd ignore her, put up with her making fun of my in-laws, and go on living our life. When we moved was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I cut off contact. I love my father, but his enabling is a problem. Then my in-laws passed, and I got insight into my wife's trust fund. Okay. First thing, she has a trust fund? I mean, I knew they set up some investments into a trust, but I never put two and two together. We're not buy a jet and fly around the world drinking champagne rich. But at 5% the returns on her investments far exceed what I make as a software developer. Does my mother know? Duck. I haven't even told my parents that my in-laws have died. Do I intend to tell them that I'm going to retire and we are going to pick 4 places a year to travel to? Oh. Hell no. Do I plan to work with my wife to draft a will so that after we die, all that money goes back to her side of the family, to her nieces and nephews? As we don't have any kids, and not a dime to my side of the family? AI up. Donated sperm to multiple lesbian couples. Through private arrangement in the home, not through clinics. I have 3 kids and 3 more on the way. Do they hold you responsible for anything? No child support. I'm not under any pressure financially at all, thankfully. Right. So, my boyfriend is a pretty good cook, and over the years there isn't really anything that I've been able to cook better than him. I try. He decided last spring that he really wanted to make all these different kinds of cake, and they were all gorgeous apart from the red velvet one, which he just couldn't seem to master. It was too soft and sunk a bit. I wanted to give it a try as well. So I bought all the ingredients and found a new recipe, but my cake was still just as bad. I was pretty annoyed that I wasn't able to make it properly, as before I met him, I was really good at making cakes. So, I kinda went out and bought a pre-made Betty Crocker red velvet cake mix and made the most delicious cake ever from it, and may have lied and said I made it from scratch. To this day I haven't told him, and every time I say I'm going to make it, I have to time it, so he is out at work, and take the Betty Crocker packaging to a bin far away from the house, so he won't be suspicious. I'm so ashamed, but the feeling of triumphant cake making couldn't be any better. Worst part was his son asked me for the recipe a few weeks ago, so he could try it in his cooking class at school for the end of the year, and I had to make something up about how it was a secret recipe and it's the only thing I could cook better than his dad, when in reality it's all a damn packet mix. Shame, shame, shame. A lot of wedding cake bakers do this. They use box cake mix and decorate beautifully. No shame. If it works. It's not stupid. Plus with wedding cakes you're paying for the elegant design, not so much the cake mix. Not my family. A friend's. When I was 13, my best friend and I were at his sister's condo. We had to babysit his niece who was 5. We went to the complex pool and did normal kid stuff. The niece had water wings on, and we were doing general pool grabber stuff like jumping in, trying to flip, etc. The girl at some point had slipped out of her water wings. I looked over and saw an image that will be with me until I die. 2 yellow water wings floating on the water, and the girl 2-3 feet down, motionless, arms and legs hanging effortless, blonde hair spread out. My friend just screamed and froze. I had jumped in the pool to swim to her, but don't remember deciding to do it. I was just moving. I came up under her and pushed her up. I had no thought, plan or clue. Just did. I pushed her out of the water and the force of my hand on her stomach pushed water out of her lungs. I got her to the side and my friend pulled her out. She coughed and started crying. My friend was afraid he'd get in trouble, so we never spoke of it. The girl was too young and didn't say or a call. Now she's in her early 40s with 2 kids. Nobody knows it happened. Anyone doing the math? Yeah, I'm an old dude. I literally let out a sigh of relief when you said she coughed and cried. Straight up thought that was going to end horribly. What secret are you hiding was the question. If she had died, someone would have noticed. Or we would have had a killer telling us how he got rid of the body and killed his best friend too to get rid of witnesses. Then left the country, changed his name, and disappeared forever at the age of 13. Only to confess on Reddit. Now that would have been a great secret. I met my biological father and he's a lot like me. I've been forbidden from ever meeting the man since I was little. I hope that one day my daughter and I can have this connection. Well, I don't have a dad anymore. So if you wanna adopt a 25 daughter to practice fathering, I'm down. Also, I tried to phrase this the best I can for it to not sound creepy. Both sides of the family always literally said out loud that I was the handsome male cousin and S was the beautiful female cousin. We heard that all the time growing up, and we agreed with it. So we had X. Roll Tide. Welcome to Alabama, where eHarmony and Ancestry.com are the same website. I know my Uncle Joe is a rapist. Joe is a close family friend. He's been around my whole life. When I was a teenager, I walked in on my uncle during a Christmas party having X with a girl I'll call Carmen, who was a couple of years older than me. I presumed it was X, because the noises were right and Carmen had a rep for being wild and preferring older men. Joe was married. I just thought he was being a peen. In the 1980s, there was a bunch of unreported apes in our town. It was an open secret. One night, when I was about 8, I accidentally overheard a very drunk Joe confessing to being the guy who did it. My father dismissed him, told he was a liar. I went away for a couple of months and came back. Someone told me Carmen was accusing Joe of rape. She was drugged, and by the time she realized there'd been a rape, there wasn't any physical evidence left. Joe denied having X with her. She'd went to the cops. Nothing had been done, but the rumors got out. So I went to the police and gave a statement about that night and what I heard. Joe was questioned, but it didn't go anywhere. My father wouldn't forgive me if he knew. Thank you for giving your statement. You're a good person and Joe is a piece of shit. So is Op's dad. Apparently. I was hiding the fact that I intended to kill myself at the age of 20 if I wasn't happy yet. My birthday is in 2 months, but life has made a turn for the best. I intend to see where this long road takes me now. Edit. Whoa, this blew up. Thank you for all the support. I'm humbled by the amount of responses. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Almost all problems are temporary. Life is a roller coaster. Source. Have lived 63 years. Let me add, twice in my life I was very close to suicide myself. The first time was after 8 months of being ill, with no diagnosis. Left me weighing 96 pounds. Impossibly thin. And with unmentionable symptoms. Turns out I had undiagnosed Graves' disease. An endocrine disorder. Once I got treatment, which was simple, I got better. If you are feeling suicidal, be sure to get checked for all the endocrine disorders. Treatment and feeling better could be SIP-E for you. 2. Second time was at a very low time in my life. I was newly separated, and other unspeakable things were happening. Still, I hung on. Now I'm impossibly happy. Sounds ridiculous. But I'm 12.5 years into my honeymoon with my third husband. My 50s and 60s have been the best, most passionate, most juicy and fruitful and fun years of my life. Had I committed suicide, I would have completely missed La Dulce Vida. Life is great, and should be for the next 20, 30 years. But when you're deep in depression, there's no evidence that it'll go anywhere. I'm not saying that suicide is a good idea, but I hate this saying because it implies that those who are suicidal are weak. I love this quote from David Mitchell. People pontificate. Suicide is selfishness. Career churchmen like pay to go a step further and call in a cowardly assault on the living. Oafs argue this specious line for varying reason, to evade fingers of blame, to impress one's audience with one's mental fiber, to vent anger, or just because one lacks the necessary suffering to sympathize. Cowardice is nothing to do with it. Suicide takes considerable courage. Japanese have the right idea. No. What's selfish is to demand another to endure an intolerable existence, just to spare families, friends, and enemies a bit of soul searching. My escapism fantasy. Ever since I've started working in a cubicle 7 years ago, I've had daily daydreams of running away. My life is boring. My family is nearly non-existent. Most of them have died. Holidays suck. Ever been to a Thanksgiving dinner for two? One day I'm going to quit my job, hop in the car and drive out west. Just don't know when that day will come. Edit. Thanks for the great comments. I really appreciate people taking the time out of their day to leave me a note. It means a lot. Just for those that are curious, money is not the issue. I have plenty. Thanks to generous parents and a lucrative career. Not enough to retire on quite yet. I'm only 28, but I hope to hang up my when I turn 40. I'm finishing up a master's degree that should open some doors for me career-wise. I'm hoping that will help. Otherwise, my life is fairly stagnant. I moved home to be with my mom after my father died almost 4 years ago and have yet to move out. I think our depression/grief feeds off each other. Not very healthy. But I like having someone to come home to after work, and she likes not having an empty house. So we tread on. I'm pretty convinced that my daydreaming and escapism thoughts are directly correlated to my depression. I guess some people are suicidal, others just want to pick up and leave. I wonder how much of my anxiety, depression, and attitude would follow me no matter where I go. I'm seriously considering giving myself a trial run in 2 years when I turn 30. Give my 2 weeks. Pack the car and go for a while. I'd really like to see the Grand Canyon and Glacier National Park. I'd like to listen to jazz in Memphis. Go to Coachella or some music festival. Eat a taco near the Mexican border. These are the thoughts that fill my head every day. Honest advice here. Make an action plan so that one day you can. I did it when I was younger. Ended up moving back and regret it on a regular basis. 1. Make a get out of town bank account. Once you hit about $500 1k you're in the clear depending on lifestyle needs. Does not include travel. 2. Figure out basic jobs you can get. Hotels are great. Especially seasonal hotel jobs. They hire anyone and always hire from out of town. 3. Learn to cook. It's the cheapest way to live. 4. Learn to budget. 5. Sell your stuff. Almost all of it. Figure out how little you can live with. There are a lot of things to do in most towns, so stuff isn't as important. The best time is to do it in the spring or fall. Seasonal jobs are usually hiring at that point. Do not blow the money you make your first year or 2. After a while it's going to be rough on low income. Honestly though, do it. You'd be surprised to learn that a lot of people do this, and it's not as hard as you would think. Edit. Don't have any bills or debt. Get a pay-cut cell phone or something, and take care of your other debt. Also, this isn't a freaking guide, people. It's just some basic advice, lol. If you plan to do it, it takes some effort to prepare, and there are other resources online. Once you hit about $500 1k you're in the clear. Are you an 8th grader?